Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Criminal United Kingdom, Episode 1. It's called Edgar, so full spoilers. Well, start spoiler free, I guess. But this is the thing, so this is the weird thing about this show. This is Netflix's new original. It's a weird show in that it's actually developed amongst different languages. I can't quite say it amongst countries, because it was actually all shot in Spain. It was all shot in the same place.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but you get 3 episodes, which are the UK episodes, which they've actually put up as its own show, because we were expecting 12 episodes under a banner, but on Netflix it's actually Criminal United Kingdom as the title of the 3 UK episodes, presumably with the cop characters carrying on in each
I
episode.
believe so, yeah. I mean, there's very mild bits of character between them.
Yes,
that I assume will carry over.
Yeah, so we're doing, so obviously when it came to deciding what the first episode to do as the pilot, as it were, as the pilot review, we just went with the UK one because it just makes sense because it's the one in English. But the other 3 are Germany, Spain, and France, I think.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. And they're all on Netflix as Criminal Spain, France.
Yes. So
I'll be honest, not a fan of this system. I feel like it hides them away from other people. I feel like, if you'd put the other episodes after the 3 UK ones.
Hold on a second. No, what you're saying here is that it's consistent with how Netflix treats any foreign content in English-speaking territories.
It is, but here I feel like they had a really easy way of expanding that to more people. With
Sure, but it doesn't change the fact that they never promote the foreign content.
No, they don't promote it, and this is my point. They're terrible at promoting it. And this was the easiest one they could promote, because all they had to do is, well, you finished the 3 English language episodes. Here's 3 French ones. Just run straight into it. Don't have to make someone go to find a separate show.
Anyway, let's talk about this episode. So the premise of this show is that it's basically all in the interrogation room, although it did actually have a little bit more outside the interrogation room than I was expecting. And when I say outside, all I mean is the hallway outside.
Yeah. Because we were always told, oh, it's the interrogation room only, in all the lead up. I know in an earlier review it said there are 3 rooms, interrogation room, behind the glass, and the corridor.
Well, to be fair though, I always counted as behind the glass as part of the interrogation room. I never counted that as something we wouldn't see.
No, I did too as well, but they're counting that as 2, as the second of the 3 rooms, and the corridor being the third.
Sure. But I always expected behind the glass to be in there. But I was surprised when it cut out to the hallway. I was like, oh, okay, we're doing hallway as well. I mean, I'm not saying they're cheating. I mean, it's literally this. There's the same characters walking out of a door and having a chat in private before they go back in.
It's basically a chat they could have had behind the glass, essentially.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
So we have this first episode, because each episode is a different suspect. Obviously, that's the whole premise. Is that by the end of the episode, they've proved, or they've disproven even, the suspect who is sitting there. And we have David Tennant as the star of this episode as the suspect, as Dr. Fallon, I think his name is, and he is accused of killing his stepdaughter, his 14-year-old stepdaughter. And the episode, it starts, he's already sitting at the table. There's no introduction to him walking in. We discover who he is and what the case is throughout the interrogation process. We also, it's worth mentioning this first episode, and this may not hold true for all of them, but they're actually at the very tail end of the interrogation process, in the sense that they've got like 24 hours until they have to either charge him or let him go, and they've got maybe 2 hours left at the start of this episode. It's a 45-minute episode, so we have about 2 hours of time to play with the 45 minutes of runtime.
Yeah, and I say it's interesting that the first maybe even 10 minutes or so, you're not entirely sure what the charge is. What they are alleging he may have done, because it doesn't tell you immediately. It just drip feeds you information over the first 10 minutes.
Did you feel you didn't know?
I mean, I was making educated guesses but it was not exact the scenario. It was getting clearer every time something came up.
I'm pretty sure the first time they mentioned his stepdaughter, I just went, okay, so he's killed his stepdaughter then, or that's what he's there for.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just leaped to that immediately. It was just, I think, like, if it had been anything all on that, it'd have been a swerve. It'd have been like, because that's, I think, the obvious expectation, is that he's there for a murder. Yeah, well, did you like it though? Did you like episode 1 of Criminal?
I did. Thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's an interesting concept for a show. It's not perfect though. I did think that it didn't actually. when, or well, how do I phrase this? It didn't conclude the interrogation in the way that I expected every episode to do it, which is it didn't succeed by interrogating. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure it does.
It makes sense to me. I can explain better with spoilers, but
Okay.
it used tactics that I was not expecting, and it feels like it is cheating the premise a touch. And it also, there's some, like we mentioned, there's some character stuff with some of the cops talking to each other, which I could happily just cut all that out. Like,
Yeah, that is easily the weakest part of the show. I mean, it's out of the 45 minutes or so, it's probably 2 or 3 tops.
yeah, it's not a lot of time it's given to it.
No, but it is easily the weakest stuff in the episode. And assuming that's going to carry over throughout the 3 episodes, I'm like, I don't care about that.
It just feels. It feels like something that belongs in a different TV show, because the whole premise of the show is that it's just an interrogation room or in the surrounding areas over the course of like an hour or two of an intense interrogation, trying to get someone to admit they've done something or speak or whatever. And because it's such a bottle show, it's such a bottle concept of a thing, it feels weird to try and do like ongoing personal stories between the police officers.
Almost like a soap opera plot with what's going on between the cops, with that we're getting little bits about.
Yeah, I could be doing without that, but the actual interrogation itself, David Tennant's performance is pretty good.
Yeah, even if for the first 20 minutes or so, he literally just says no comment.
Yeah, over and over again. But even the way he says that is a performance, and it
is, yeah.
So no, the episode's pretty solid. The weird thing I see here though is that obviously we're going to have a different case in the next episode, but we are, I think, keeping the same cops. But even if we're keeping the same cops for the next 2 episodes, if we switch over to any of the other countries, we're immediately going to be switching to a whole new cast. Although I've got a bit of speculation here that even though we're technically meant to be in a different country and with a different cast, I've got a funny feeling that very characteristic red neon light that's around the window, looking into the interrogation room, might stay there for all of the different versions because it's part of the show's logo.
It might just be, yeah.
I don't mind it, but it's actually a very stylized looking interrogation room.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is I did not realize they were all shot in Spain. Did you say?
Yeah, they're all shot in Madrid.
All right. Are they using the same sets for all of them?
I don't know.
Because that'll be really jarring if the because don't get me wrong, there's a certain expectation of what an interrogation room looks like, but I would expect, somewhere in the middle of England to look different to Spain. Interrogation room. I'd expect some difference.
Well, here's the weird thing though: it's already not a regular looking interrogation room, at least by TV standards. We're so used to
TV standards, yeah.
But more basic rooms. Maybe a lot of police stations have have geared up a little bit in the last couple of decades, and they do look a bit fancier and look more like this now. But
they might well. I can't say I've ever been in one.
Because it's so stylized, though, I feel like you almost get away with using the same room in like a weird kind of meta sense, where they're not literally saying this is meant to be like. It's just that no, we're using this same room because interrogation is the same, no matter what language you're doing it in. So we're using the same room for all of them. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they do that.
You could do.
Hell, for all we know, though, the next 2 episodes of this UK one might be in a different room.
I mean, they could be. I suspect they're not, given that it's likely the same cops and.
It probably is, but like
I'd be very surprised if they're different rooms for the next 2 episodes of this. I thought the actual interrogation though was pretty solid, which is kind of the premise of the show. So it's what you're there for. So even if the stuff around it is a little bit weak, I'm not sure if that matters that much.
I've had to put so much time to spend on it, I suppose. But so I think we'll have to give a spoiler warning because I don't think we can talk about any of the actual case without.
Probably not. No,
I don't think we can. So full spoilers then for episode 1 of Criminal United Kingdom. So yeah, so he's been accused of murdering his stepdaughter, who they also suggest that he's been having a sexual relationship with, and really kind of try and nail that point at home. And no matter what they say to him, he just keeps saying no comment. They keep trying to like prod him with new details. We have kind of the head cop comes in, and she's just kind of watching. She's kind of stern. And then we also have this guy Paul, this detective who is from a different, who transferred. He used to be here. He transferred to a different precinct, different area, and has come back. And he has a relationship history with this head cop. I don't think she's a captain or anything like that. I don't know what her job title was exactly. But she's Hobbs and he's Paul. So Paul's back, and halfway through the interrogation, because they're getting nothing, they send in Paul to shake things up. And Paul goes in, replaces Hugo Duffy, who is miffed when he leaves because it's like his case. He's been kind of working with the other guy on it, and he's pissed that he's been kind of shoved out. But he ends up actually finding the smoking gun, as it were, later on in the evidence, which is actually where my weird like complaint of how the interrogation kind of wraps up is that it's not because they make him crack. It's not because they play his own personality against them or anything like that. They basically just find a piece of evidence and show it to him, and they're like, well, we can charge you now because this evidence is pretty ironclad.
Yeah, I get that. I think it worked for me in the sense of they didn't make him crack in terms of, okay, he didn't confess, right? But they made him talk. They got enough out of him that now he's presented a story to, okay, so if you present this to a jury now, he's given a story that we can argue against, as opposed to, well, you can't argue against nothing. It's kind of, it's easier to disprove something.
But to be fair though, the evidence that's found at the end, which is the pattern on the cast, the plaster that she's got on her arm, the victim, has a pattern embedded in it because it was drying and setting whilst in the trunk, the boot of his car. That's not something that just disproves his story. That's something that just on a blanket level proves that she was in that car, in the trunk.
See, on its own, I don't know if it does prove it. I mean, maybe if you can match up exactly and say this matches exactly, maybe that's enough. I don't know.
I think it would be.
I mean,
if you do a test and match the pattern, just like they do with tire tracks or anything else,
sure. But
of.
On its own, I don't know if that is enough. Because it's one piece of evidence, right? And I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a cast that we know was only applied that morning.
Yeah.
Right? Because his whole thing that he kind of stumbles into to defend himself is that her arm is bruised and she's, her plaster's like set, and he couldn't have killed her in the time period of leaving the hotel and coming back. Yeah. Or getting back to London.
Yeah. So, which I guess here is, if he hadn't said any of this, I mean, would you be arguing it, against it? That's the point. Oh no, they've stumbled into this because he's kind of brought this up and prodded at things and go, well, it happened that morning, and that gives them, okay, well, if it happened that morning, here's this line that we can go down.
Okay, maybe the time frame of it, but I disagree that the evidence has anything to do with what he really says, because ultimately it's just a case of no one thought to check if she might have been in that car in the back like that. No one thought to, like, because everything they kind of bring up is just that, oh, she's not in the car with you, and you got the car cleaned. We got this receipt. It almost felt like they'd only looked through some of this evidence as they were sitting in interrogation.
Yeah, I'll tell you something though, is because they think at this point early on, they're under the assumption that he's done it, and they're saying, well, she's not in the car with you, so you've obviously, dumped the body or done something with it before this. They're saying, oh, she's not in the car with you, so she must have been, she must have died before you left. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
But then here, when he kind of goes on this pan and go, okay, well, this is where we were, and then he kind of brings up the story of, okay, well, it was the coach that she was with.
Yeah, but
they're like, well, hang on, you left her with the coach?
Which, yeah, it does sound weird and suspect, and it was the one part of your story that didn't feel like it added up. Like, why would you leave your stepdaughter with this man that's your age? That was odd. But the whole idea that the smoking gun here that kind of leads him to like this whole thing is that he got his car cleaned. There was a receipt for him going to get the car filled up, and it was more than the cost of filling up the tank. It was like, no, he also got it cleaned, and he got the back cleaned specifically. And it's like, wait, you never like looked into that before the interrogation when you were looking through this evidence? You never.
That is a little strange, yeah.
Like, you never like questioned he got his car cleaned? That seems a bit suspicious, given that you're thinking he might have just had to dump a body.
Yeah. I wonder if it specified it got it cleaned, or if it was just just a receipt with a price on, and they've gone and worked this out later and gone, well, hang on, maybe that's what it adds up to. I don't know.
I guess my disappointment here is that it came down to just evidence that they kind of like almost didn't consider in the film, because you know the guy's in the observation side of the mirror and he's just kind of looking through. You see him sort of like he gets an idea and he starts looking through things and starts piecing it together. And okay, sure, him telling the story might have got him down that train of thought, but instead it just made me think, why didn't you have this idea before? Yeah, like. There's like several pieces of evidence here. The pattern in our cast is kind of a detail. That's a detail you don't just ignore. Like, what is this pattern? Where did this pattern come from?
No, it's fair.
They've clearly inspected the car. They got photos of the car. I don't know. Like, it made me think that they weren't doing their jobs very well before the interrogation.
My only defense of them at this point is, okay, so they've brought him in for interrogation probably fairly quickly after the body's been found. So and they've been in there for close to a day, I think they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a case of, okay, we didn't actually have a lot of time to go through the evidence beforehand. We're kind of going through it as we're doing it.
I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. The time frame is a little fuzzy.
I mean, if that's an angle they want to play, that okay, that they're rushed into doing this, and that's an issue with like them having the evidence, like then play that angle up. Don't just not mention it.
No, that's fair.
Because I never got that impression at all. Because it felt like because when the guy not kicked out, but when he was replaced with Paul, it was like, oh, he's been working on this for weeks, I think was the line that was said. Like it implies that he's put a lot of work into this, and he's had time with the evidence. So that would suggest to me that no, they've been investigating this for weeks.
Yeah, you could be onto something there.
So I don't know. It's funny because I don't want to sound super negative here because it was actually quite exciting in the moment as they were doing this and as he was putting out there. But the reason why I was excited was not how they got to the information, which is kind of what I was expecting from the show. What made it exciting was just kind of like, it's when he reverted back to no comment because he realised they were onto something that he couldn't quite answer. And it was just more his reaction to realising he was caught that was the exciting part. The actual getting there was just kind of, okay, whatever. Cop show stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess I just mind that less.
Well, I don't actually...
The other stuff was interesting enough.
I don't actually not like it, but for me, the fun of a good like interrogation focused thing, and I'm thinking of like episodes of The Shield. A couple of them come to mind. Episodes of what else are good interrogation scenes? Brooklyn Nine-Nine bizarrely had a pretty good one at one point actually. But it usually tends to be about playing the person against themselves, like their own personality.
Yeah.
This idea of getting into their psyche and whatever. And this wasn't quite that. This was a little bit different. This was a bit more, I don't know, procedural, I guess.
I suppose in the way the evidence kind of comes up, I can understand what you're saying there, procedural.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the interesting things about this is that everything that's brought up in the case is pulled out of nowhere because, from the audience perspective, because we've not seen any of it, right? It's all just been presented to us for the first time. So I think there's a risk there of making it feel like it's not just pulling new tricks out the hat at any given point. Because it didn't happen so much in this episode, but there's definitely a possibility here where you go, well, why wasn't that brought up sooner? that feels, and obviously there's a way to play the suspect, right? And I get that they're obviously withholding things to certain points and they're doing it in a certain order, but there is a risk that it could feel like that potentially, where it feels like
there is.
You've held that off because it's a dramatic beat to put it 2/3 through the episode as opposed to the start.
There is. I feel like they got away with it in this one because they had we saw him realize and put it together.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like, well, why didn't they get to this? I mean, obviously that's a complaint you can have as to, well, why didn't
and
they
made
come to that? And you did, yeah. But it doesn't feel like the show was just delaying it for the sake of it. It felt like, no, this character's only just gone to it. It's not like they're just withholding information.
Yeah, it wants it to be the story that he figures it out. He gets this idea based on what he said. Like I say, I don't know. Like checking the car and checking that print on the impression on the cash just felt like a really weird oversight to me. We kind of glossed over kind of what the story of the case was. You know, they think he's having an affair with his stepdaughter, and that's why they were always staying at, you know, it was always a double bedroom rather than two singles, was something they kept
Yeah,
bringing
I
up.
can't remember what sport it was. Netball, something. I don't know.
Yeah, the daughter was playing netball, so at the weekends they'd go to like a hotel for a netball game, you know, nearby.
Yeah.
Remind me, netball's just basketball without the bouncing, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's you can't move while you have the ball. I
Yeah,
think
you can't dribble, but you can. Yeah, but you're still just throwing it around and then putting it in the same hoop. Yeah.
As two men, I suspect neither of us have ever played it.
I think I did once in PE in school. I think for the sake for the sake of, you know, like learning a variety of sports, it was like, here's the netball period. But yeah, so that's what they say, and obviously like she was maybe wanting to stop, or like these trips were going to have to stop soon because netball season was over, and he got mad, they had a fight, and he killed her. So no one would find out. But he accuses the coach, who's the only other man on the trip,
Yes.
and he says that his wife actually booked the rooms, which is something they can check with her. So I assume that's true, because it'd be stupid to say that if she didn't.
It would, and it's plausible enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Question is, why the double beds though? If the wife's booking the rooms, that's a weird.
Maybe they're cheaper.
No, because they mentioned the same price.
Oh, did they?
That's the first thing they say about it, is like, despite the fact that the same price, she always went for the double, because that would be a reasonable excuse. Like,
it would, yeah.
Oh, it's actually a little bit cheaper. I was like, well, you just save some money then, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, very odd. But anyway, so he accuses the coach, and he says he found out about it. He did get angry. He did like hit her once, and she hit this table in the hotel room, and that's why she got the bruise. And he tries to use this as his smoking gun as to why he didn't do it, is because, well, I mean, the dead people don't bruise, so I couldn't have killed her quickly enough.
Yes.
So then it becomes, well, she was alive in the back of the car for
the performance that he gives here, when it feels so genuine, where he's like, "This is it. Why didn't I think of this sooner?" And of course you can take it as it's genuine. He thinks he's got a get out of jail free card here. He thinks he's got it for himself, but obviously in the moment it plays as genuine. He's happy because he's absolved himself.
Yeah. And the episode goes back and forth, because I think the first 20 minutes, because he keeps saying no comment, you assume he's guilty because he just gives that impression. And then once he starts like telling the story, you're like, oh, he doesn't sound completely ridiculous. And I love the moment actually it cut to the behind the glass, and the three of them are in there, and like two of them say guilty, and then innocent. And I think it's interesting, it's the one in charge who says innocent. She actually guesses that he's innocent, but she's the one who's wrong. Well, seemingly by the end of the episode, given the evidence. And don't get me wrong, I get that the whole idea that she was held alive in the car for a while is what comes out of the story, that maybe prompts the other guy to. But like I say, the fact that the car was cleaned, the impression on the cast feel like things to look into, and they've inspected the car. So I'm just saying that I feel like all these pieces should really have been more prominently looked into.
Yeah,
but
it's possible.
I guess it's just because I was expecting more of a psychological thing, and maybe episode 2 and 3 will be that. That's entirely
maybe
possible.
They will, yeah.
But I mean, as it is though, I think it's fairly well done. It went in quite quickly. It's like 45 minutes. It's it unravels at a nice pace. It feels like there is some nice moments and revelations. I liked when Paul comes in, who doesn't really know much about the case. He just kind of comes in to essentially play this father figure. Like, he's like, oh, I've got a daughter about the same age, and he kind of like intimidates him a little bit. It obviously reveals at the end that he was lying the whole time. He never has a daughter, because David Tennant tries to say something kind of creepy. He's like, well, your daughter's lucky she's got you, and he's like, I don't have a daughter, and that's kind of that. And it wasn't a big surprise. It was just a little thing, but
it's not, and it's kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
But it is what actually gets him talking. It's the idea that he's been accused of being a bad stepfather, essentially. That he doesn't seem to care enough. The idea that the jury will see some of this footage, and you're just sitting here with your arms folded saying no comment. I was expecting more stuff to come with the pen, because they make a whole deal where they've got a pen in front of them, and the idea that innocent people tend to fidget, so they'll touch it more often, because they're just scared that they've been questioned.
Yeah. I did laugh. The one of them was like, well, one of them just kind of disregards it as all a bunch of rubbish anyway. We pay attention to evidence.
Yeah.
We don't give a shit about any pen theory, which ultimately is where it went. It came down to the evidence, none of the other stuff. Kind of a bit of a foreshadowing in that sense.
Yeah, Nah, I suppose it is. It's an alright time though. I like it's
I think without strong performances, this would be nothing.
No, that's true. I know. I think the next one's Haley Atwell is the.
It's probably another really good performance.
Suspect. Well, I've never seen her be great in anything. Like she's fine, but
I've seen her be great and stuff.
Okay, what's she been that's been like a great performance?
I think she was great in that episode of Black Mirror she was in.
Okay, all right, now I'll give you that. That's a more dramatic performance. I'm not really counting Peggy Carter as
No, I wasn't either, because that's schlocky fun stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, she's good at that, don't get me wrong, but not the dramatic role that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you wanting to watch more of this? Are you wanting to review more of it?
I'm open to seeing the next one. There's only 3 episodes.
Here's a question though, because I was debating this as I was actually watching it in my head.
Yeah, do you hop to one of the other countries next?
Well, no. Well, yeah, I thought of that too. But the other thing I was thinking of though is whether or not it's actually there's that much value in reviewing more of this, because ultimately the one real thing that's going to change episode to episode is the case, right?
Yes.
And the details of the case. And obviously some debates might come out of that, then we kind of debated a couple of things there, but like the actual style of the show and how it's handled isn't necessarily going to change that much.
That's true. Do you think it might be a little too procedural for our stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm making some assumptions here. For all I know, episode 2 could like completely shake the whole format on its head, and I'll be like, oh, I'll have tons of stuff to talk about. But I'm just curious. I mean, it's only 3 episodes, so maybe it's worth just watching the 3 of them and seeing how we feel after those. If we want to touch the other ones.
That said, it wouldn't be the first time where we've watched the next episode for something and then gone, you know what? There's actually not enough to talk about, and just not bothered.
Well, because a lot of this conversation was how the show presents itself, how it handles the stuff, and so on and so on. All that goes away for episode 2 because we just have the contents of episode 2 to talk about.
Yeah. So unless it does something to alter the status quo that it's established here, we typically don't talk about it as much.
Yes. So, but if you're game to try episode 2, we'll maybe give that a go and have that up sometime over the weekend. But that has been episode 1 of Criminal United Kingdom. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and everything we do, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. And you get bonuses and some exclusives and stuff. But mostly you get to just feel warm and fuzzy that your content's going to keep coming thanks to you. But you can, of course, go and buy some merch. We have shirts and stuff over at Spreadshirt. There's links in the description to that as well. And you can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars helps out a lot. I think that's everything. We have more Netflix stuff, obviously, on the go. I'm currently on my own reviewing Unbelievable and finishing off season 3 of Glow. Next week, we have The Politician from Ryan Murphy to try and see how that is. So more coming from Netflix too. So, but that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?